This podcast is brought to you by Bernie's Tap and Grill. It's family owned and operated since 1954. Located across from Wrigley Field on Clark and Waveland. My dad hit a few home runs on the Waveland Avenue, and Bernie's was my dad's favorite place to go. It's got delicious food, 4 full-service bars, an awesome beer garden, a sidewalk patio cafe, and a cool upstairs area. It's the place I've always met my friends at before and after games. Go on by and tell Linda Dillman Jeff Santo sent you. Bernie's Tap and Grill, where you go when you go to Wrigley.
Sit back and relax. It's time for peanuts, popcorn, and Cracker Jacks.
Hey, how's it going? I'm your host, Jeff Santo. I'm here with my wife, Christy.
Hello, hello. And let me just say how amazing it was to witness that perfect game by the Yankees the other day.
Right.
I had no idea they were so rare. Only 24 in MLB history.
24. Right. It's amazing. And one of those 24, our guest today was in one of those games with my dad.
Oh, yeah, that Koufax perfect game that you always talk about where they got the signs.
They got the signs. It didn't matter. And that story, wow. I mean, my dad always told that story about the Koufax no-hitter. And, I mean, since I could remember being around him, I mean, it happened in 1966 in Dodger Stadium. And I remember when I did This Old Cub, and I traveled with my dad, and the Cubs, Jimmy Bank would get me a room connected to my dad so I could make sure everything's all right. And then after the documentary, when I went back to Los Angeles, when the Cubs would come into town, I'd also go and stay with him. And then if they go to San Diego, I'd go down to San Diego and stay with him. So I went to San Diego, and after the game, Cubs won, so my dad was in a good mood. And we go to the hotel bar, and a bunch of Cub fans are in there. And sure enough, they come over, and they start asking my dad, like, who's the toughest pitcher you ever faced? And my dad would always say Koufax, right? Just Koufax. And he would tell the Koufax story.
Right. You knew it was coming. Like,
right?
Here comes the
so
Koufax
I'm like, okay,
story.
I'm going to hear this one again. But I'm going to hear it in front of a bunch of Cub fans, right? In a bar. And he's great every time he tells it. So he gets up, he tells Joey Amalfitano before the game started, got up in the clubhouse and stood up and said, when Koufax gets in the stretch and his elbows go out, it's a curveball. And when they're down, it's a fastball. And so they're like, really? All right, great. And so the game starts, and Beckert hits second. And Beckert hardly strikes out. I mean, literally out of like 600 at-bats, he strikes out like 18 times. And he goes down in like 3 pitches. So my dad would always say, when Beckert would come back to the bench, like, what's he got, Roomie? So he comes back because my dad goes into the hole. Billy's hitting third. And as Beckert's coming back to the bench, my dad goes, what's he got, Roomie? And Beckert says, he ain't got shit. so my dad's thinking, really? So Billy's up there. He makes an out, 3 up, 3 down. My dad leads off the second, and he said he didn't even stride. It was bam, bam, bam. Gone. He walks back to the bench, and he sees Beckert laying on the bench, laughing his ass off, going, I didn't see it either, man. And so anyway, pitches a perfect game. And they go into the clubhouse after the game. They're all kind of like, I mean, what do you say? You got to tip your cap to something like that, right? And so they get in the clubhouse, and my dad stands up and goes, what's that, Joey? He goes, elbows out, curveball in the stretch, elbows down, fastball. Koufax never got in a stretch. No one got on base, man. Thanks for the tip. Because he pitched in the windup the whole game.
Right.
So anyway, and so he tells that story in the bar, and everyone's cracking up, right? And then we banter a little longer, and the crowd goes away, and then me and my dad are just sitting there, and I think they kind of left the bar, and so I'm sitting with my dad, and we're talking. I said, Dad, and I don't know why I said this. I said, have you ever hit Koufax? And his eyes, the intensity that looked at me, I said, uh-oh, what'd I just say? I guess it was a couple beers in me. Because I've heard that story.
Right. Well, did he ever hit Koufax?
And Koufax has been a mythical character in my life since I can remember how to remember. And so literally he looked at me and said, I hit 5 home runs off of Koufax and got up. And I don't even know what was said after that. He was so pissed off. I felt like I was on the field with him in some intense competitive moments, And I'm not a kid anymore. I'm a man, I'm in LA living in.
And let me ask you, you assume that he got a hit off of Koufax, right?
But the way I said it, the way I assumed it, but I just did you ever hit him? Because he was always praising him. But I didn't think about it. I didn't really even think about it.
Because you heard that story so many times.
Yeah.
So you're constantly hearing about that story. You wanted just to kind of have the reverse of that. So tell me, you hit him.
I learned a lesson. And so here's what he does, because that's when he had both prosthetic legs. So he gets up off his chair, takes his cane. I think he whipped his cane at a couple of stools and took off. Wow. Up to his room. So I got an adjoining room. So now I'm a little pissed because I'm like, whoa, I misspoke a bit, right? But and so I'm thinking, I'm kind of pissed. What the hell just happened? We were having a great time. So I go up to the room, and I'd like to have a cigar on the balcony at night before I go to bed. And so we have an adjoining room. So I'm on the balcony smoking a cigar, and I could see through his window in his adjoining room, and I'm still kind of pissed, thinking, what the hell was that? And I see him take off his legs. And sitting on the end of the bed. And I just went, oh, man, I'm such a moron. And so put out my cigar. Well, I put it on the side, and I walked through his room. And I said, Dad, do you need anything tonight? And I just want to say, I'm really sorry. I don't even know what I was thinking. and he just nodded his head. And next day we were fine. But the reason I bring that up is because Billy Williams knows my dad so well, and he's our special guest.
Yes.
And he knows that's how my dad was. And we talked about that, and it was such a beautiful conversation. Overwhelming a bit for me at the end, because it's Billy, and my dad and him were so close, and their careers, were side by side. You can't talk about one guy and not talk about the other. And you're going to hear that coming up.
Such a special interview.
Yeah. So here's Billy Williams.
Enjoy.
Gino's East of Chicago, doing deep dish in Chicago since 1966. Now has an LA location. Same great recipes, same great ingredients. That's no joke. Their deep dish tastes exactly the same as it does in Chicago. It's my favorite. I love the deep dish. And Gino's East is where I go when I want a taste from home. Named Best Pizza in LA by LA Times readers, and I certainly agree. Plus, there's a full menu of Italian favorites, Chicago Tavern-style pizza, and the Italian beef sandwich. Dine in for great food straight from the oven, or do carryout or delivery. For great pizza and great atmosphere, go to 12924 Riverside Drive in Sherman Oaks, near the corner of Riverside and Coldwater Canyon, just off the 101 and Coldwater Canyon exit. Or order online. Go to genoseast.com. My special guest today is one of the greats of the game of baseball. He never missed a game for a long stretch, 1,117 of them, breaking Stan Musial's National League record for consecutive games played. His left-handed swing was the sweetest ever. He won a batting title. He was a National League Rookie of the Year in 1961. He and my dad met in Double-A San Antonio and would hit 3 and 4 in the Cubs lineup for many years to come. He's a Hall of Famer and one of the greatest human beings of all time. Billy Williams, it's so good to have you here with me today, man.
Oh, Jeff,
Billy.
thank you. Thank you so much.
It's great to talk to you, Billy. I got to ask you, how did you and my dad meet in Double-A San Antonio?
Yeah, I signed in 1956, of course, and I played two and a half years in the minor league. And of course, when I got to San Antonio, that's where I first met your father. And at that time, we had a great coach and a great teacher, fundamental of baseball. by the name of Grady Hatton, and I think Grady helped Ronnie and I a lot. Of course, when Ronnie came down, he was a catcher, and of course I was a third baseman. So Grady saw something in the both of us and put Ronnie at third base and sent me to the outfield. And that was one of the greatest things that happened to the both of us.
I didn't know you played third base. Wow.
Yes, I did. And it, as I said, when Grady Hatton, who was a good baseball mind, he managed your father and I, and it was a great thrill for us to play for him because he had some experience playing in the major league, and he was just a great teacher. I know I spent like 2.5 months down there, and then I was called up to the big league. But Ronnie stayed down in Double-A, and we played so many games together. And I think one of the real things that happened, John Holland, who was the general manager of the Chicago Cubs, and he sent Rogers Hansby down there, and working with Rogers Hansby and being tutored by Grady Hatton, I think it was the greatest thing for the both of us.
Yeah, he told me, Billy, that Roger Hornsby, that was a big thing in his life. When he came out to evaluate you guys, and he put you guys in the stands and lined you up to kill all the baseball dreams. And then my dad said he went down the row and telling everyone go home, and then you guys are at the end there, and he said both you guys could hit in the big leagues today. Is that how it went?
Yeah, it really did. It was a great looking at a guy who was one of the greatest right-handed hitters in a game of baseball. And because the organization was in transition at that time, we had some minor league clubs, and at that time you had about 6 or 7 minor league clubs. And John Holland told Roger Hansby to go down to the minor league and see who we have in the future could play in the big league. So Roger spent a couple of days down there, and we, on the field, we got out the ballpark about 10 o'clock in the morning, and we hit. We took some ground balls. We ran. We did everything, a scout would scout you. And then when Roger Hansby, after about 2 or 3 days, he set everybody in the stands. And, he started reviewing every player up there. He went to some guys and said, hey, you might well go home. You can't play the game of baseball. I don't think this is as far as you're going to go. So go home. And, Santo and I seemed like we were together at that time. We sitting up there because the ball club put us together down in San Antonio and wanted us down there to play together. And Santo and I was watching all this stuff. And, of course, when Roger Hansby got to us, he said, we were shaking. What are you going to say about us? At that time he said, you guys could play in the big league right now. You could hit in the big league right now because it showed me that you read pitches, you could drive the ball, you go the other way, and I think you could perform on a major league level. And he told several guys, listen, you could go home because you can't play any baseball. And when John Holland, made had him come back to Chicago, and he made a review of what he had gone through in the minor league, and he really talked about Santo and I. He said, I went to Double-A baseball. I saw 2 guys that you have playing at San Antonio, Williams and Santo, and I think those 2 kids, maybe not next year, but they're going to perform for you and have some outstanding years in the big league. And this is Roger Hansby when he got back. He said, you could release every damn body else because they can't play ball,
man.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And this was a true story. This was a true story.
God, yeah. Did that must have gave you so much confidence. I know it did my dad. You guys must have been like, wow. Right?
It did. Listening to a guy who was a great hitter, as I say, in the major league and played so many years in baseball, who was a manager. He managed in the big league. And, of course, when somebody tells you that, who have played a major league baseball, he's seen some great players that have performed on a major league level. And when he give you that vote of confidence, it just makes you go out and play a little harder, and that's what we did.
What was it like when you first met my dad? Well, I got to say, as a son, I got to ask as a son, what was your first impression of my dad when you met him?
Well, when we first met, we both was young. And of course, at that time, you had the T-shirts and the cigarettes on the side. You were doing a lot of smoking then, and we became friends at that time. We got to know each other. You from Seattle, Washington, I'm from Alabama, and we were different. We were chalk and cheese, different guys. He white and I'm black.
Right.
But we hit off each other and we got along real well. And of course, you don't play in over 2,000 games if you didn't. And this is what happened when I first saw Santo. He was a gung ho guy. Most of the time they said kids with big bonus, they call him big bonus baby. And I don't know how much your father got, but I knew he got some money for signing, and of course, everybody knew that, and we just hit it off real well. And I think from that time on, everywhere Ronnie went, I would go because they put us together. They put us together down in San Antonio, and because they had as I mentioned, Grady Hatton was a good manager and a good fundamental guy, and he was John Holland, and we had a farm director who, thought that we're going to play baseball later on in the big league, and they always put us together. Down at San Antonio, we were together, and then the following year, 1960, they put us at Houston. We played at Houston. They always put a couple of guys who they think going to make the major league with a bunch of veteran guys to teach the young players. And I got so much thrill playing, on AAA and playing with your father.
Yeah, Billy, you and my dad were the definition of baseball brothers. I mean, you and him played more games together as teammates than any other major league player in the history of the game until Bagwell and Biggio set a new record by just 8 more games. I mean, it's amazing, the story, how intertwined your baseball careers were. It's beautiful. Yeah.
Well, we did. And as I said, it all started in AA baseball.
Yeah.
And when you guys played, when we played together, and the club saw what we could do, and they always put us together. I don't care. We went to Houston. We played together, and of course, Ronnie was called up from Houston. I remember it rained for like 14 to 15 days, and we got rain out at that time, and that's the time Ronnie was called up to the big league. And of course, I came up at the end of that year because I was on a 24-hour recall. And I came to the big league, and I got a chance to get in a few games. I hit my first home run in the old Coliseum in Dodger Stadium. That's when they played it in the Coliseum then. They hadn't built a ballpark in Los Angeles. So we got together at that time, and I got a chance to play, and I hit a couple of home runs that particular year. And the following year was 1961. This is when we started our streaks together.
Right. And you became Rookie of the Year that year.
That was always, I hit third and Ronnie hit fourth. And they did this for many, many years. And, of course, Ernie hit fifth. But Ronnie and I was teammates. And as I mentioned, we played over 2,000 games together. And it was a thrill. I tell everybody, we had to go down in Houston. We do this golden era of baseball players, and I had to give you a lot of big farm. And I talked about Ronnie. I say he wasn't fast, but he was quick. He made the plays down at third base. He was an individual, played the hitters, had a great arm, and he knew what to do when he got the ball. He stole some bases, but not many. But when he did steal, he made it. But he was a guy that wasn't fast, but he could make the plays. He was really, really quick at third base. And a lot of times he stopped that ball before he got to left field because I was playing left field. And I said, thank you.
You talked about it raining when he got called up. My mom told me about that because she was there with him, and said that my dad, when you guys were in AA, he hated flying those DC-3 planes with the propellers. Said those.
I can remember sitting on the plane, man, and DC-3. You have to walk uphill before the thing can take off. Right. And once we get on there and we fly, and you could only fly so high. You had to go through the dark clouds. You can't. There's so many feet you have to go in the air. So we had to pick our time to go through the clouds. And I remember one day we landed in Pratt, Nebraska, and I remember we hit the ground and we bounced about 10 feet up in the air. And we went in and had lunch and stuff. And then when we came out, the pilot said, "We're ready to go." And Ronnie and I got on the plane, and I looked out, and there was Lou Johnson. Lou Johnson, who later on played with the Cubs, and it got the only hit in the perfect game that Sandy Koufax pitched. But Lou Johnson, he was standing on the outside. Ennis Slaughter was the manager there. And he said, "Billy, call Lou and tell him to come on the plane." And Lou waved at me and said, "I'm not getting on that. I'm not getting on that plane." So we took off. And Lou Johnson wasn't on the plane, but he got to wherever we were going. He walked in the hotel about a half an hour after we got there and said he was hungry. He found out a place to go, and he later on met us at the hotel. And another time. Wow. Our pilot, the regular pilot that flew the plane, I think he had to go back in service because we had another guy to fly the plane. And I remember one night, it was about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Man, we sailing down in Texas somewhere. And all of a sudden, we stopped at a SAC base. This is where a lot of security is present. And when we land, we see all these sirens coming out. We all see all these red lights coming out. So we had to get off the plane and stand there for about 45 minutes before we got clearance to get back on the plane and take off. But that was the experience we had in the minor league, and we were so glad to get to the big league.
Right. Right. My mom said he almost quit because of those airplanes. He hated it. He was so scared. Yeah. You came up. Now you got called up in '59, right? And then did you go back down before you? Right.
I got called up. Oh yeah, I got called up in 1959 because I was swinging the bat real good. And they called me up to AAA. I left AA and I go to AAA. And when I went to AAA, I stayed there for about 5 or 6 days, and I swung the bat real well. I think I hit about 500 and hit a couple of home runs. So I came to the big league. And as being in the big league, I didn't get a chance to play. I didn't get a chance to hit. So I really wanted to go back down to minor league. And so the following year, they sent me to AAA. They sent me to AAA. And I stayed down there a full season. Mm-hmm.
Was it hard for you to when you went up to the bigs to go back down? Was that tough?
It really wasn't. Because at that time, I wasn't playing and I wasn't getting any at bats, and my progression was pretty good coming up in the minor league. And all of a sudden, I'm sitting on the bench in the big league, not playing, not going to the plate and hit. So I really wanted to get sent back down because, I was doing pretty good in the minor league, and I said when I get back to the big league, I should be ready to do it.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I remember my dad saying he had a good camp in '60 and thought he was going to make the team, and they sent him down, and he was a little dejected then. And his stepfather had to give him a pep talk, and then he finally started hitting again. And they brought him up.
Oh yeah.
So you came up right after that in September 1960. Then you guys were together all through from there on. God, it's great.
Right,
Yeah.
right. When I went back to AAA. Reiner was already in the major league because this is 1960. He had played some games in the major league, and at the end of the baseball season in the minor league, I think it's September 1st. And at that time, they put you on a 24-hour recall. They could call you up any time, but they waited till the end of the season to bring me up.
Gotcha.
And I think the club at that time they needed a third baseman, and John Holland told the organization to put me in left field. He looked at the AA year I had, the AAA year I had when I went to AAA, and I went back down. When he looked at that, he told all the coaches, say, put William in left field and don't nobody bother him. Just let him play. And that gave me a word of confidence, too. So I went on and played. And, of course, that particular year was 1961. And when I was playing, like 2 or 3 weeks, I wasn't swinging the bat real well. And I was wondering what was happening, because I had good AA, good AAA. And I said, I don't know what's going on. I remember playing a game in Philadelphia. And, at the ballpark, you sit in the dugout, you're taking stock of yourself. You wonder what the hell's going on with you. And I remember the lights flickered and they went off. And I sit on the bench. The bus left, go back to the hotel. And I didn't play for about 2 or 3 weeks. And we go to Los Angeles, and a guy by the name of Bob Will, he played left field the 3 weeks that I wasn't in the lineup. And Bob Will came up with a bad neck in Los Angeles. And I got back in the lineup. But in the meantime, I said, when I get back in the lineup, they're going to have to tear the uniform off me because I'm going to play every day. And this is what happened. Bob Will got hurt. I got back in the lineup, and things started to click. In 1961, that's when I became the Rookie of the Year of the National League.
Wow, Billy. Yeah, and then, it's amazing because if my dad might have played a full season in 60, he might have been Rookie of the Year that year. You get Rookie of the Year in 61, and then Kenny Hubbs is Rookie of the Year in 62. You guys had to be feeling good with Ernie. Were you feeling good about your team then? And then Kenny Hubbs died in a plane crash. What was that like?
Yeah, I remember, Jeff. That was just before spring training. We went to spring training. I was still in Alabama, and it came over the news that Chicago Cub, the Rookie of the Year last year, got killed in a plane crash. Kenny Hubbs got killed in a plane crash, and I called Chicago and I talked to John Holland, and he said it was true because when you looked at him, he was from California, great player. Could steal bases, hit and run, do a lot of stuff. To win the Rookie of the Year, he was outstanding. And I think he would have played many years with the Cubs. And, looking at Santo, myself, Ernie, and Kenny Hubbs, and what we, Lou Brock, what we had developed in the minor league, I thought we were going to have a great club. And, of course, when Kenny Hubbs got killed in a plane crash, this opened the door for Glenn Beckert because we went to Boston, and I think we picked up Glenn Beckert from the minor league, and of course Beckert played a lot of games, with Santo and I. Right.
Yeah, God, that's a tough one. And then when did you know, Billy, that because you had some lean years in there in '64 with the College of Coaches? When did you know you had a team that could finally have a chance to win? When did you feel that?
Well, in 1966, when we went to Philadelphia and got Ferguson Jenkins with the ball club, and this was in 1966. So we go to Long Beach, California, and this is when Leo taken over the club. And in Long Beach, we were standing behind the cage one day, and of course, Kenny Holtzman was doing batting practice, and Leo said, this guy could win in the big league right now. He's another guy had been in the major league for a long time, so he knew the players. And we had Bill Hand, we had Fergie, Rich Nye, Joe Necro. We had some young guys that had performed in the minor league, came up to the big league, and had getting a chance to play. But we didn't start off that particular year. Leo said we're not a ninth place club, eighth place club. I think that year we finished 10th. This was 1966. But from that point on, we started to make our move. And when I saw our baseball team in 1968 in spring training, a lot of people began to pick us to win the World Series. Many people in baseball picked us to win the World Series because this is when Ernie went to first base. Don Kessinger played shortstop, and we had Beckett and your father playing third base, and I think it was Jim Hickman came up with the ball club at that time. We got him from the Mets. So 1968, when people start talking about Cubs winning the pennant, and the following year, 1969, of course, I thought it will happen because we put some great guys on the field. Everybody was having good years. And I think we went off and we ran 10 games. The first 10 games of the season we won. And it was great. A lot of fun in Chicago. Everybody was excited about it. And we saw great times in Chicago. But 1968 was the year I said we could win the pennant because I looked and saw the players that we had and the pitching that we had. And of course, Leo came in 1966, as I mentioned, and Wrigley gave him carte blanche. He said, "You could do anything you want. If you want a player from another ball club, do it. We'll try to make it work." So this is what he did.
Like in '66, all those guys kind of came, like Hundley, you had Beckert, Kessinger. So you guys had that nucleus. And
yes.
So in '60, what did you think of Leo right away, Billy? What was your feeling about Leo?
I saw Leo when he first walked into Long Beach, California. And you could tell he was going because John Holland gave him the authority to do anything he wanted with the ball club. He saw, John Holland saw that the guys wasn't really performing like they should. And Leo came in, and he always been a gung-ho manager. And he walked in the clubhouse. And I think one of the first things he did was, got on a veteran ball player. And, of course, that was Ernie. He started on the veteran ball player. And a lot of the young guys said, if this guy could do this, what are you going to do for the young players on the ball club? You're going to get mad at them. So Ronnie and I, we looking at this and say, this guy going to be a good manager for us, which he did. I thought he was a two innings head of every manager in the big league. And any time you did something on the baseball field, he was right there. If the umpire called you out and you have an argument, he was right there, right in the umpire's face to keep you in the baseball game. So he was a guy that he was a player's manager. He was a player's manager.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he had a lot of discipline. So you think he was hard on Ernie because he wanted to show that, the discipline, was that it?
I think this was the case. This is why he did that. This is why he did that. Later on, I kind of had a little conversation with him, and he didn't say it, but I could tell he did that for a reason.
And then when in '69 in spring training, did you guys think, what was the thing with having, you didn't have a center fielder? Did you like Don Young in center field?
We was all in need of a center fielder. And we wanted a player. We wanted the ball, just to catch the ball. Don Young was a really, really good outfielder. He could chase the ball down. He wasn't a real good hitter, but he could go get the ball in center field. He could make the plays in center field, and this is what we wanted because we had guys going to drive in runs. We had guys going to score runs. we had pitchers who were going to get people out. And we just wanted a guy in center field to catch the ball. And I think the club went down to minor league and got Don Young to come to the big league. And, of course, a lot of things happened. And, it happened in New York. And he tried so hard. So, when he missed the ball in left center field out there, he tried to run through the wall the next ball. So he lived with that a long time. He really, really think he was the fault of the Cubs not winning. I think at the end he believed that we didn't win in '69 because he didn't really catch that ball in center field. And I remember after the game. We at the hotel. In New York, and I got a call. This is how we were. I got a call from Fergie Jenkins, and Fergie said, "Come up, let's talk a little bit." So I went up to the room and we had conversation. And he said, the kid missed the ball out there in center field, but I shouldn't have let him hit the ball. I should have struck him out or something. Mm-hmm. So Fergie trying to take the blame, the game. She should have did this. She shouldn't did that. But it was a play that really turned the season around a little bit.
Oh, it did, huh? Yeah, that was a hard thing because it kind of stuck with our family too. I know my dad got a lot of heat on that after the game because I guess Leo got mad at Don, and my dad said a couple of things, but it was kind of brought out the wrong way in the papers, and I know that affected him for a while because it's just one game though, right? I mean, you guys played well after that.
Uh-huh. Yeah, this is just one game, and it happened, and I remember it so well. Your father, he was gung ho. He wanted to win, and then it cost. And I remember he said some things. I don't know what he said in the paper, and he got on the kid by not catching the ball, and I remember sitting in the lobby, and Ronnie felt real bad about it. That next morning, he felt real bad about it. And I said, because we were together, Ronnie and I was together for many, many years, I told him, I said, you should just go talk to the kid, maybe give him an apology, because it hurted the kid. It even hurted Don Young when Randy Huntley had these camps out in Arizona. When we all went out there, the 69 Cubs did this camp, and he was invited. Don Young was invited. And he came, but he stayed on the outside of the clubhouse. He didn't want to come in because this was still in his mind. And I went out there and grabbed his hand, and I told him to come on in the clubhouse, man. All that stuff is over with. Yeah. Yeah. So since then, I think everybody has buried a hatchet. Everybody's, have a good time with each other. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. The only reason I bring that up is because I know that, that season that they said a lot about that. And I know my dad I know things were said the wrong way because I know my dad down deep, he wouldn't say one guy blew a game. You played with him long enough. That wasn't what he said,
Yeah. The wrong way. Yeah. Well, your father, because we played together for so long, okay? And I knew Ronnie. Yeah, I knew what he was all about. He'd say things today, and tomorrow he'll forget about he said it. He guys get on the skin, and he'll get on their butts, and the next day, we pals. So I remember Randy and them, he and Randy for many, many years, they talk about the hair, who got the most hair. And Ronnie, Fergie, and they used to play golf together, Ronnie and Randy Huntley. And they get pissed off at each other on the golf course, but they come at the hotel, they come back to the ballpark, and they loving each other, and that's the way we were, and as a ball team, because we played together for 12 years, and you mentioned that Randy Huntley, and we got Randy Huntley and Bill Hands from the Giants. We went out there and got them from the Giants, so they were minor league players, and they came and really helped us to win a lot of games here.
Yeah, your team, I got to tell you, because, me and Ronnie hung out in the clubhouse then, and I just think about when I was a kid in that clubhouse that every time I showed up there, I had nothing but joy it filled with joy because I always felt good in that clubhouse. You guys were such a great group of guys that all got along. It was like one big family, and that's what was so heartbreaking about you guys not winning in '69 because you deserved it. You guys were, great players.
Yeah, we were the best team in the major league. We were the best team that particular year. And you mentioned that running around in the clubhouse, you and Ronnie, and of course Jerry Banks, Ernie's boys, and of course I had the 4 daughters. So we used to see you guys out there all the time, and most of the guys we knew each other. We could have parties together, and at you guys' houses. We enjoyed, when Ronnie have his parties, Beckett have his parties, I have my parties, and we just got along real well. And the kids used to be around. The kids just enjoyed themselves. So it was a fantastic summer of 1969. It was fantastic.
Oh.
We had a great time.
Man, that summer, Billy, it was like a box office blockbuster movie. Everyone wanted to go to Wrigley Field. The excitement. What do you think it was that brought everyone to Wrigley that year? The bleacher bums. It just was a perfect storm of excitement.
Yeah, it really was. Wrigley Field had a lot of attraction in 1969, and the ball club was playing good. That's one of the attractions. Of course, Wrigley Field. Everybody wanted to come to Wrigley Field to see baseball games. And the other thing was, of course, the bleacher bums. And a lot of people wanted to be a bleacher bum. A lot of people wanted to sit in left field with the bleacher bum. So there was a lot of stuff going on that particular year. And I think the biggest attraction was that the Cubs were winning. We hadn't won in a ton of years, so everybody was excited about that. I walk around town now. If I go down the city, go out to the ballpark, and there are people 50 and 60 years old and saying that was the best summer that they had in Chicago. It was a great thrill. And, of course, 2016, we won the World Series, so I guess that overtaken that.
Right. Yeah, how'd that feel for you, Billy, when you were there to experience that? Yeah.
Jeff, when the team came here, when we played the World Series here, I threw out the ball.
Right.
And I told the guys we're gonna play as a team. We're gonna play as a team in 2016. This is Ernie thing. I wanted to bring Ernie in. The club gonna play as a team in 2016. And of course, when we won. I wasn't in Cleveland because I was running. I had the pneumonia. But when we won, I was looking at the game. On television, and my first reaction was, I wish Ernie and Santo was here to witness this excitement, because so many years we tried to put this team, over the top, and we didn't do it. But I'm the one here to help them celebrate it. And I thought about Ernie and Santo. I said, those guys would have had a great time. I don't know whether Ronnie would have had a heart attack or not, but he would have had a lot of fun. He would have had a lot of fun, man. He was a Cub up and down. He loved the Cubs, and of course he went to the White Sox. He played one season and said, "That's it. I don't want to play no more."
Yeah. I think he's very he wore his heart on his sleeve. You know that, Billy. He had a lot of emotion. That's what drove him. That's the kind of stuff that drove him.
Talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys were different in that way. You kind of kept it in, and he came from, his dad left him when he was young, so he wore that on him like he was always a fighter. And man, he wanted to win real bad. I know all you guys did, Ernie and him being there for so long.
I'll tell you one thing, Jeff. You didn't have to think what your father was thinking. You always knew because he told you. And this is why Leo made him the captain of the baseball team. But you really didn't have to guess. You could just he'll let you know what's going on. He'll tell you. So that's not a guessing game. And he was he was gung ho about a lot of stuff. He wanted to win so bad. And he played his heart out. And one of the biggest things when he came to the big league, he was a diabetic.
Yeah.
And and nobody knew that. Nobody knew that.
No.
And Al Schuneman, who was the trainer of the ball club, he would bring candy bars in a little pouch and set them on the bench. And I didn't know, Becca didn't know. And when it got hot and we performing out there, Beckett and I found out that there was some candy bars in this little pouch. And there were times we ate a lot of those candy bars from Ronnie, But he didn't want to tell anybody.
I know.
Ronnie was a guy, he didn't want to tell anybody because he didn't want anybody to feel sorry for him. He didn't want that.
Yep.
He said, I'm going to play baseball. I'm going to play it. I'm going to be myself. I didn't want anybody. Ronnie used to come, when he used to come back and forth and see the doctor was the only guy that knew.
Jake Suker, Dr. Suker?
Jake Suker. Yeah.
Jake Suker,
he was our guy, man. And he would come in Chicago. He would come in Chicago and see Soup. And Soup take care of him, do what he had to do. And, Ronnie didn't want anybody to know. I think Beckett found out. Ronnie and Beckett always roomed together. See, they roomed together. And Ronnie was hitting about 320. And Beckett was hitting about 240. Okay, and I think that morning they woke up and Ronnie was in the bathroom giving himself a shot. And Beckett looked in there and said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm giving myself a shot. I'm a diabetic." And I think Beck didn't hit a diabetic, but he said, "Whatever you taking, I want some of it," because he was trying to say, "I'm taking the shot for diabetic." And Beckett wanted the shot too. Yeah. That was a funny thing. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
They used to room together, and they had much fun together. I think Beckett took a damn dog up to the room one day, and they had a lot of fun together. They roomed together. Yeah.
That moment was brought to you by Tangent West, Executive Recruiters, headquartered in Denver, with offices in Vail, Colorado, and New Orleans. Since 1995, Tangent West has conducted executive searches nationally and internationally. They place C-level executives, management positions, high-level executive assistants, marketing and accounting, and finance. Cheryl Grimaldi, president, has personally interviewed over 36,000 candidates and has filled over 2,500 searches. I've known Cheryl for decades. She's a dear family friend and someone you can trust. She's been at this for a long time. Tangent West, hunting human excellence and building the country's finest companies since 1995, because nothing matters more than hiring the right people. If you're hiring, go to www.tangentwest.com.
Crackerjack.
This call is being recorded.
Oh,
Mom!
it's me again?
You're the crackerjack again, Mom.
Sunshine. All right, I guess I'm prepared as much as I will be. So
How are you doing today? How are you doing?
I'm on the 4th of July, and I'm older. I can almost remember when the Declaration of Independence was written. So.
Okay.
Not
Well,
quite.
happy Independence Day, Mom. I hope
Thank
you're
you.
having a good day.
Yes.
So I'm crackerjacking you again because I interviewed Billy Williams, and
Yes.
wow, amazing how Dad's career and Billy's career were so intertwined.
Right.
Starting in the minor leagues And he talked about when it was raining. He remembered when Dad got called up. He said it was raining for 14 days. And I remember you were down there.
Yeah, it was horrible. And it was like when he was called up, it was like, will he even be able to get out of Houston? Luckily he did, but the roads, everything, it was torrential. So, but he made it, and off he went. So
he did. And we talked about the DC-3s that Dad flew that he hated.
Yes. There were some times when he'd come up back to the apartment in Houston, and he'd walk up the stairs and say, I quit. I can't take this anymore. And because, well, first off, if you've ever been in a DC-3, that's even tough. And going through storms like their country now. And that's what they had to go through.
I know.
Yeah.
Billy said that they had to, when they got in the plane, they had to walk up because there was an incline.
A DC-3, yes. So back when wheel went down, so you had to walk up.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what a DC-3 was, small.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was, luckily then, he got to be able to go fly on commercial airlines, and DC-3s were a thing of the past. Didn't have to worry about.
And that was it. Like, when Dad left, you were still in Houston on your own. What was that like? Did you follow him on the radio? Could you tell what was happening in the game, his first game?
Yeah, you know, we've discussed over my lifetime. I have a terrible memory, and even your brother can vouch for it. So it has nothing to do with my age now. I can't remember. All I know is I was there with everything in a car, and I packed it up, and I'm sure it was shipped. I didn't drive. In fact, to tell you how long ago it was, O'Hare Airport was not open to commercial. I flew into Midway.
Wow.
And then we had an apartment rented down on Clark and Pine Grove, I think it was.
Right.
Long time ago.
I know, but you didn't even know what, like, Dad was doing in that game that night in the doubleheader? You didn't even, like, he had a great game?
No.
Wow.
No.
Wow.
I don't even know, communications and everything were nothing like they are now.
Right.
And so, then here again, that could be, yes, it could be again, a thing of, it was out there, but I missed it, okay? I was busy packing the car, okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
And now, Billy talked about the parties that each of the players would have. I remember the party you guys had at Valley Low, and talk about, didn't Billy grab one of the wild
a goose off
the
Yeah, there were a lot of them there because of the water, and then they would be in yards and everything. So he decided he was going to go out and grab one, and he did. And then a lot of people were downstairs in the basement because there was a pool table. And as he's going down the stairs, like holding it under his arms, it started to spray poop all over the wall. And so anyway, it was like a bagpipe almost, and it was just squirting out there. So he quickly ran back outside and let it go. that was a nervous goose who didn't want to be part of the party.
God, that's funny because on the dock, because we would always have those wild geese come in and they would hiss at us. You get too close to them.
I know, yeah, they would, and so, they're messy.
That must have drove you crazy. Now, he didn't let it go though? Well, that would have been funny if he let it go, right?
No. Thank goodness he didn't. He realized that was not a good thing to bring it in the house. So
right. We were also talking about, he talked about Dad's diabetes, how he didn't, even know about it, for a long time. And that's amazing because they were so close. He said Dad wouldn't even, say anything because he didn't want anyone to feel bad for him.
Well, Glenn didn't even know about it. His roommate didn't know about it for a while.
Right.
His number one thing is He wanted to play baseball, and he was going to do whatever he could to make sure he could. And so it was a secret, but he was seen by a doctor, a special doctor, and kept it under control. So he got comfortable that he could finally tell. He had enough good years that he could let them know he was a diabetic and took insulin.
Right, and he was because he was sophomore player of the year when Billy was rookie of the year in 1961.
Okay.
Because Billy did say, Mom, Billy did come up in 59 and then went back down, and then Dad came up in 60, and then Billy came up at the end of 60. And then they played together from 61 on. So my point is, like, when Dad started losing weight, you remember that? Like, he wasn't taking insulin because, you know.
If he found out at the beginning when he was diagnosed that if he did a lot of exercise and ran, the glucose, would come back up, and the insulin wouldn't go down. So he did that, and it worked for the first year, but then in his sophomore year, it just got to be that wasn't possible to control it that way. He lost weight, and also diabetics, if you get a sore, they don't heal. So he had that issue. So finally, he went to a specialist that was not connected with the Cubs at all, and had to take in a big urine sample that he had collected like over 2 days. And when he left there, he left with insulin and needles, and that was the beginning of taking care of his diabetes. And of course, it turned things around, and it was great.
Wow. Well, that had to be hard for him to. Go ahead.
No, you know what? His attitude was marvelous. It was just, let me play. Let me play. I love the game. And his attitude was good.
Back then, Mom, though, they only had they didn't have the glucometers where you could check and see where your blood sugars.
Nothing. They didn't have a variety of insulins. They didn't have the glucometer. All he could do was urinate on a piece of strip of tape. And if it changed color, that would tell you about the sugar level that you had. And so it was not scientific or anything like it is nowadays, where you can control at least it better. And that took its toll eventually.
Yeah.
In his later years, it definitely took its toll.
You're right. And did that shorten his career, do you think, a little bit?
Oh, that's just guessing at it.
Yeah.
What shortened it? He got traded from the Cubs to the White Sox. He didn't get an opportunity to really play. That was so discouraging to him that he decided enough was enough, and so he let it go. Yes.
Right. I got you. Yeah. Now, when he took the insulin, he took one shot in the morning, then went by how he felt. Right, the rest of the day.
Right. He really could read his body when he knew if he needed more insulin or had too much. He always kept like a candy bar around him, like at the game and in the dugout.
Right.
And he also then wanted to know how it would feel to get a real low blood sugar, and if that happens, you could pass out. So he ran up and down the basketball court to see how long it would take to get that feeling, so that he would know how it felt to be that way, so he could guard against it.
Wow. So he prepared when he first took that insulin. He had to see how low he could go when he knew that he needed a candy bar. Right.
Right. And then eventually more insulin. Yes.
Wow. Yeah. And the candy bars Billy talked about, he said him and Beck would take those candy bars because he didn't know that at the time. They didn't know he was a diabetic. So they're like, well, let's have a couple. Maybe they're for everybody. Yeah.
Right.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Mom, one last thing I want to ask about is the Don Young game. I know you were out there for that Don Young game in New York, right? You were out there with the Polanos?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And do you remember Dad being upset on that?
No, that is the bizarre thing about it. After the game, if he was really upset, I would have remembered it. Maybe he was a little, but not to the point where I could remember it. It wasn't until it started, articles were coming out in the newspaper about it. Now, DeRocher was more upset than your father. He benched him everything. And it was the newspaper. And at that time, Chicago had 3, maybe 4 newspapers. So it's like competition to see what you can get an article about. Now, your father, it's known, he has a temper. And when he got so upset that Don Young was like putting his head down, he didn't have that love for baseball and the passion, and it just showed. And I think that really bothered your father. But he let it out in the clubhouse, but after, and then it was just that it came out in the paper. Otherwise, it would have been, I think, one of those things, you let go. Emotions do happen in the clubhouse, no matter what.
Yep.
So, but it was the competition of the papers and articles, to bring that up. And it kept on going and going until finally, I don't know how long it was, maybe years, that the columnist that wrote that article wrote and apologized. But of course, it didn't make it in the paper big time like the original story. Yeah. So. Yeah.
All blown out of proportion.
Yeah. He wore his emotions on his heart, his passion. And so that would then put him out there to be prime news worthy. Okay.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Some of them, some players could be just calm and quiet and not let people get to them, and knew when not to talk. But no, that's what made people enjoy the fact of who he was, his passion.
Yeah, his passion. And I think, that whole Don Young thing, Don Young wanted to quit, and Dad they had to apologize the next day. And I remember he, just reading articles and talking that he didn't want to apologize, but since the kid was going to quit, I think that's what made Dad upset. Like you said, the passion, like how can someone go this way when you're playing Major League Baseball? Physical errors happen, but it's, when your attitude goes another way, that's a different story. Did you feel that?
Oh, of course that would bother him. His whole life was baseball. He couldn't understand if you made it there and you didn't have the passion. He just couldn't comprehend that somebody could be like that, because he was so grateful to be where he was and enjoyed it. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely, Mom.
That's Don Young. Okay.
yeah, that's that.
It's kind of comparable to news days now. There's so many cable channels. There's so much media. A little thing gets blown up because everyone's looking for something, to get out there with. And that's really what the Don Young incident became. Like you said. But that Don Young followed our family for a long time. Oh yeah. People who weren't your father's fans would yell at him. What about Don Young? Anything to just kind of agitate him. And it went on for quite a while.
It did. It did. That's why we talk about it. So, well, thank you, Mom, for being the crackerjack again. Have a great 4th of July.
People are going to get tired of this crackerjack. Okay.
No, Mom, never. Come on.
Okay.
No.
I wish I could had a better memory and can help you.
No, you're everything's fine. Yeah. It's beautiful to talk to you about this stuff, Mom. So, you do remember a lot. You think you don't have a good memory, but you remember quite a bit. So
well, I definitely scared. I never did have one. So what I do remember must have been impressive. So anyway, sunshine. Happy 4th of July. Have a wonderful day.
We will. You too.
You always. Okay. Love you.
Okay. Love you, Mom. Bye. All right. Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye.
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 Oh, I love having your mom on. I love her so much.
And when Billy was talking about the perfect game and Lou Johnson, the guy that wouldn't get on the DC-3. Lou Johnson was the only guy to get a hit in the Sandy Koufax perfect game, meaning the Cubs had a no-hitter going too until Lou Johnson got a double and then somehow got to third and scored on a sacrifice fly. So there was only one hit in that perfect game
Which was
of
a
Sandy
Dodger,
Koufax.
Lou Johnson.
Which was Lou Johnson, who was a Dodger who played with my dad and Billy in Double-A. It's amazing. I didn't know that until Billy said that. That's amazing. Wow. Well, remember, don't hesitate to write. Tell me a story about the Cubs, my dad, Billy, Ernie, or tell us how you're liking the show. Email jeff.ppcpodcast@gmail.com.
And click subscribe if you're on Apple Podcasts, or if you want to be a cool crackerjack, subscribe on our Patreon page by clicking the link below this episode, or go to our website, peanuts.popcornandcrackerjacks.com.
Yeah, we want those cool crackerjacks, man. That's our show. Special thanks to our cool crackerjacks, Scott Nelson, Jim McCauley, Debbie Foley, Sherry Matarisi, Terry Rankin-Gurovitz, and Terry O'Brien. We're almost to 9, a full team.
Much love to our cool crackerjacks. Thank you, thank you.
Click follow for next week's episode, part 2 of my interview with Billy Williams. You don't want to miss it. My closing quote: "A life is not important except in the impact it has on other lives." Jackie Robinson.
Toodaloo.
SantoFilms.com, the place to buy This Old Cub DVDs, posters, and This Old Cub t-shirts. Get yourself one now at SantoFilms.com.